Well, folks, yesterday, Tuesday, was a very bad day for Donald Trump as the third former lawyer that worked with him to overturn the results of the 2020 election accepted a plea deal from Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. That person, of course, is Jenna Ellis. Jenna Ellis joins Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesbro, who both took plea deals last week. Powell on the eve of the trial, Chesbro on the day that the trial was set to begin. Now, those are the three former lawyers, but in total, there are, of course, four individuals that have now accepted plea deals from Willis. And considering the fact that both Sidney Powell and Jenna Ellis, along with Chesbro, because it was a lawyer, had direct contact with Donald Trump, this is especially bad for Trump himself. So Ellis has pleaded guilty, of course, to a charge of aiding and abetting false statements and writings. So that's it. All she has to do is plead to that. She is being given 5 years of probation, 100 hours of community service. She has to pay a $5,000 fine, and she has to write a letter of apology to the state of Georgia. Hey, dear Georgia, I am very, very sorry for what, I don't know. That's kind of like, that's a little juvenile to make them write letters of apology. These are grown adults. That's something you do in like elementary school, but whatever. In addition to those penalties, 100 hours community service, 5 years probation, first offender status, she also has agreed to testify truthfully and honestly against any of the other co-defendants that she is called to testify against, and, because that's not all, produce any documentation that you may have regarding these other co-defendants. Now, that's a new piece. That's not necessarily something that was spelled out in the plea deals for the other folks. So that kind of raises some eyebrows. Jenna Ellis has bragged about, kind of keeping the receipts, or at least people have, said she's very good at keeping receipts. So to include that specifically in the terms of your plea deal, like you have to give us all of this documentation, that's a big one. That is definitely an eyebrow raiser, and it's definitely something that is not good for Donald Trump, especially considering the fact that we already know that Ellis drafted two memos, outlining the legal strategy for Mike Pence to reject the Electoral College votes on January 6th. So she was working directly with Donald Trump, but it's not just Trump that needs to be worried. Ellis also worked side by side with Rudy Giuliani. She traveled to Georgia with Rudy Giuliani. She also traveled to Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania with Rudy Giuliani. So she was joined at the hip with him. So she likely also has information to give about Giuliani himself. But she definitely will have information to give about Donald Trump, as she, as I mentioned, was the one who wrote the memo saying, yeah, Mike Pence can do it. Here's how he can do it. These witnesses, by the way, when we're talking about Powell and Chesbro and Ellis, their testimony in court can be used against Donald Trump in the other January 6th trying to overturn the election results trial, the one with Judge Tanya Chutkan overseeing it. And based on what they say in the testimony, assuming the Georgia trial happens first, they could be called as witnesses in that one. Now, the plea deal will not cover them for those trials. So if they have to go and testify in a different trial, in a different jurisdiction, they could plead the fifth. They give up that right when they accept the plea deal in Georgia. So a little bit of, possible, cohesion between the trials, but not as much as we would like to see. Either way, Giuliani's in trouble, Trump's in even more trouble, and, when we think about Sidney Powell also working with Giuliani, there's a good chance they may have enough information at this point to approach Rudy Giuliani and say, listen, we can pop you right now on X, Y, and Z, and, all these other ones too. You flip, you don't go to jail. You're an old guy, you're not in great health. You really want to spend your last few years on this planet rotting away in a Georgia prison cell with no hope of pardon? Or do you want to take a deal? That man over there, Donald Trump, he's going to throw you under the bus. You can throw him first and save yourself. That's what these other lawyers have done. They definitely have info on Rudy Giuliani, and if you can get that nut to crack, Trump is toast. And that is what Fani Willis is working on now. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel. We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.